Hi, and welcome to another video in our Enterprise Freelancer Training series. In this video, we're going to cover a very important topic of negotiating and communicating with employers on projects. It's a key topic, and if I had to name one area that would make or break your freelance career, this would be it. So please be sure to watch until the end of the video, as I'm going to quickly share the most important tips and some of the most common traps to avoid when negotiating and communicating with employers on projects. So let's go. Tip number 1. Start with a question. What do I mean by this? Well, a lot of freelancers respond to an initial employer's request or a message to their inbox with a simple hi. Unfortunately, it's such a missed opportunity and sadly a proven way for freelancers to instantly crush their chances to get the project awarded to them. Instead, try this. The best and proven way is to start with a strong question, because a strong question gets the conversation going, builds up the confidence in the employer, and really is one of the single best ways to start the relationship with a new employer. In the end of the day, it's really simple and effective. Lastly, and I almost forgot, there's one thing that's actually worse than responding only with hi, and it's inappropriately addressing the employers. Please, by all means, try to avoid addressing the employer with hi sir, hi dear, hi madam, etc. This is especially harmful when communicating with employers within Western business circle. Sadly, chances of freelancers getting the project awarded in said example become equal to 0. So please keep that in mind also. Tip number 2. Don't leave the employer on hold. This one's very clear. If you're for whatever reason unable to answer immediately, notify the employer. Don't just leave them at read or unseen in the inbox. It will leave the employer confused and it really slims down the chances of you getting that project awarded. Really, a simple response, quick response like this: I'm on my way to my PC/my workstation. I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you. Cheers. Your name. That's it. Nothing special, nothing fancy. It does the work, and really it's the right thing to do, and it's polite. Additionally, it's been noticed that some freelancers have been asking for the employer to send them a link to the project. Now, this is very bad, because imagine this: you're an employer, you're saying hello to your possible future freelancer, and he responds, please send the project link. This confuses the employer also. So I get it, you might be on your mobile version, you cannot access the project link or project details for whatever reason, but this is not the way to do it or to handle the situation properly. So my tip would be, tell the employer that you will respond ASAP when you reach PC, your desktop, that you're on your mobile, and that you cannot answer properly until you get to your workstation. And that's it. That's much better than ghosting them, leaving them on hold, or asking them for project link. Number 3. Be the quickest one to explain why you are the best choice. Now, what do I mean by this? You must be aware and realistic. In this phase of communication between you and employer, in this early stage, employer is probably negotiating, communicating with a couple of more freelancers, not exclusively only you. It's realistic to assume that you are not the only freelancer that is being contacted at the very moment. But it's not all about beating the competition. It's all about beating one even more dangerous trap that's in front of you. It has been noticed that the employers often get stuck in the limbo about messaging another freelancer or waiting it out, and all of this is high friction, meaning there's real possibility of the project never coming to life. For example, the negotiations with freelancer number 1, let's call him like that, are on hold because employer is waiting for freelancer number 2, another freelancer, to respond. What often happens in these situations is that freelancer number 1 moves on or takes another project, while at the same time freelancer number 2 never answers to employer's inquiries. The result of the whole thing, employer gives up. Now what you can do is to try to anticipate all of this. So, by knowing what's going on in this phase, you should be the proactive one. Don't just wait. Explain why you are the best fit for the project. Be quick, be enthusiastic about it. That way, the employer will not have any doubts. He or she will not have to wait and play the waiting game, weigh the choices. They will quickly decide that you're the best fit, and basically, it's a win-win. Number 4 is read the project brief or project details description in detail. There is absolutely nothing worse than freelancer bidding on a project and then in the first 30 seconds or so of conversation with an employer realizes that freelancer doesn't even understand what the project is about and comes to a realization that the freelancer can't even do the project. Please read the briefs, read the descriptions, try to avoid this. Number 5, connected to this, is bid realistically. Try your best to bid realistically with all the info you have available. Gather all the info, take your time, but bid realistically. Also, just because others are bidding very low doesn't mean that you should bid accordingly or lower than them. Don't join them in the race to the bottom. Educate yourself. All of this doesn't include only the price, it includes the deadlines. So if you can grasp the deadlines, please bid realistically. Bid according to the possible schedule. If you can't bid appropriately, if you can't give a deadline or the price from the info you have from the project description, no big deal. But you have to mention this to the employer in your bid. Ask the employer all the info that is missing so you can give them appropriate quote and schedule for the project in hand. Lastly, never fall into the trap of overpromising and underdelivering. We tend to be desperate and we overpromise. It's a long-term death sentence for your careers. Please don't do this. Also, lastly, don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to miss the opportunity if the opportunity is not for you. Remember, not every project, not every opportunity is for you. Sometimes it's just realistically better to say no, especially in the long run. Number 6, Google is your friend. In my experience, it does wonders for your chances to land the project very quickly if you dig up some info about your employer, about your potential employer or their company. As soon as the communication is initiated from either party, you or them, doesn't matter, take 5 or 10 minutes of your time and dig up some info about your employer or their company. It will do wonders. Trust me, in 90% of the cases it seals the deal, because in most of the cases details are the ones that separate you from your competition. So these 5 or 10 minutes of effort you put into digging info about your employer could separate you from all the other freelancers. Really goes a long way. Now let's go to a few quick last ones. These are more of a technical nature but very important for your way of doing business. So, number 7, ask the employer right away if he has or she has a preferred working methodology. Honestly, the majority of employers are result-oriented and they don't really have a preferred methodology as long as they get the wanted result. However, by asking this question straight away, you avoid any future confusion and you show a high level of proactivity and professionalism. Number 8, cadence of communication. Ask the employer if they want to know whenever something happens, or if they just want to be updated when something important happens. So, do they want a weekly report, daily report? This is also something that should be discussed before or upon accepting the project. Number 9, connected to all of this, keep the employer updated about the delays. So it's a hard conversation, but it's a necessary one, especially with enterprise clients where there are external stakeholders involved. And of course, it's logical that Freelancer.com champions and users don't want to look like fools in front of their superiors. So try to understand this. Also, it's very useful and simple to just exchange time zones in the beginning of the communication and to avoid any future delays or confusion. Number 10 goes without saying, but please don't spam your employer. We as freelancers often get tempted to spam the employer, especially if they don't answer for a prolonged time. Send 1, maximum 2 follow-ups to your employers. We often tend to get too worried and to think that people are avoiding us and ignoring us, but that's not true. People are actually very busy, and that's all. If there is something urgent, you should always contact first freelancer.com support or a recruiter. You don't have to spam the employer. And the bonus tip, treat every employer like a VIP client. Because at the end of the day, every client is a top client, and small gestures go a long way. Remember that. For example, if you feel there is something you can add to the project, just a small tiny thing, let's say adding a small bonus or something like that without charging the client, do so. It may take 5 minutes of your time, but it can really mean a lot in the long run, and it can turn a first-time client into a returning client. Trust me, I had a lot of success with this simple method. It really shows that human side of you, and clients are also people and they respond very well to it. So that's it. Thank you for sticking around and watching until the end. I hope to see you in other videos of the series. Be sure to watch them to get the whole picture. Thank you for watching. It was Luka from LP Studio.